Sup, guys? 0-1 yesterday. Not even close with that over. I don't know what else to say about that. It continues. The slump continues. Move on to today. This is Friday. We got a full slate of baseball games here, and it's Friday, so it's one of those days where the series cross over and you get into new series. Whole bunch of stuff going on. I'm going to point out real quickly that I may wind up with more plays tonight than what I have on the show, just depending on how these pitching matchups shape up. But we have Kansas City at my Red Sox. Kansas City was off yesterday, and the Red Sox played. The Red Sox won their series against the Oakland A's. Big deal. But because the Red Sox played, Kansas City was off. I think that gives Kansas City a little bit of an edge because they didn't use their relief pitchers, whatever. They're a little bit rested coming into this game against the Red Sox. Maybe they'll be a little bit more focused, while the Red Sox maybe could take their foot off the gas a little bit and maybe slip up attention-wise a little bit after playing pretty well and not suffering a letdown, coming off the series win over the Yankees and winning again against the A's, but the A's do suck. So maybe the letdown will start happening here against a team that's a little bit better than the A's. In Kansas City, the problem here right now is we don't know who the starting pitcher is for the Red Sox. So I thought that it was slated to be Cutter Crawford. I thought this game was going to be Cutter Crawford against Seth Lugo, but that is not the case. For Kansas City, we have Cole Reagans listed as the starter. So I actually like that on the side of Kansas City. He's been their best pitcher this season, pretty much. 3.28 ERA, 1.17 whip, 134 strikeouts and 37 walks and 109 2/3 innings pitched, 91 hits allowed. All those numbers are really good, except maybe you could complain the walk number is a little bit high. But other than that, really good stats. And against the Red Sox don't have a lot of familiarity with them. We only have a sample size of 12 at bats. 5 of the Red Sox hitters have faced him before, and they're only 2 for 12 off him lifetime with a double, 2 RBIs, 3-1 strikeout walk ratio, 167 batting average, and 481 OPS. So you could argue that maybe that was because the Red Sox weren't familiar with Reagans when they first faced him. Sure, but I like Kansas City in this one. It's just going to depend on what happens as far as like who comes out as the Red Sox starter, basically. And if they're going by like a committee approach or something, I think it might make sense to come in and take Kansas City here. And the Red Sox yesterday, I mean, they won easily, so I don't think they used a whole lot of their bullpen, but they still did, like I said, play yesterday, while Kansas City did not. Yeah, the Red Sox only used Anderson to just come in and finish the game. So the Red Sox bullpen is actually in pretty good shape. So either way, though, the Red Sox did play yesterday, so it's a bit of a worse spot for them. And I think the public might come in and look at this and say, how is Kansas City favored on the road? Looks like we're seeing them having moved up from -110 to -120 as a road favorite. Public might come in and think, well, the Red Sox, of course, the public comes in on the Red Sox more often than not because they're the big market team, bigger name team, and they're pretty hot right now in baseball, whereas Kansas City has cooled off after a hot start, even though the record is still pretty good. Public might come in and think, oh, man, this is a bargain, taking the Red Sox at home as an underdog at Fenway. But I see it the other way, obviously, so I might be looking to take Kansas City, and I might be looking to take the Chicago White Sox, which is another one where the line is way up right now. It's sitting at White Sox like -155 or something. So it's one where you might want to look to just split run line and money line on the White Sox here. Take the -1.5 run line at like +130 something and split half the bet on that and half on the -155 money line or whatever for the White Sox. This is another one where the public, I think, is going to come in. The White Sox are playing Pittsburgh here and think, how are the White Sox favored like this against anybody, basically? I think the public might think that the line makes no sense, that there's no way the White Sox, who have like the worst record in baseball, should be favored like this against anybody. In this situation, I disagree, even though I think this is probably the only time all year you'll see the White Sox favored by this much. The books know what they're doing, lining it like this. In Pittsburgh, they're coming off a game where Paul Skeens pitched, and Pittsburgh has not done that well in the games after Paul Skeens has pitched because they usually play a good game and win when Skeens pitches, and a lot of them are low-scoring games where the Pittsburgh Pirates have to use their bullpen, which they did to some extent yesterday. Skeens, for the second time, threw 7 innings of no-hit baseball last night, and they took him out while the no-hitter was still intact. That's the second time it's happened this year. They just don't want to run his pitch count up over 100. But still, I think they should give him a shot at the no-hitter, man. I don't know. But another great start from Skeens, who, even though he's a rookie, like, it's arguable that he's the best pitcher in baseball already. Pirates are coming off that. They used their best two relievers last night, basically in Holderman and Chapman, or a couple of their better relievers, really. And the White Sox did not play yesterday, so that's the other thing about this. So Pittsburgh's coming off that. They just took a series against the Milwaukee Brewers. It's a big series, nice big divisional win there. Now they're going out to play an interleague game off of that win against a Chicago team that didn't play yesterday, even though they played a doubleheader the day before that. Chicago with another losing series, of course, against the Twins and staying at home. I like Chicago here, but of course, a lot of it, the reason why Chicago's favored by so much isn't just because Pittsburgh played yesterday, because Pittsburgh is the better team in general, but the White Sox have Garrett Crochet pitching. And speaking of best pitchers in baseball, Garrett Crochet quietly is one of them. And he's been in the league for a couple of years now, but this is like his first season where he's really been unleashed, and he's pitching a full season, and he's been nothing short of awesome with a 3.08 ERA, 0.97 whip, and he's coming off a bad start at Miami. Kind of inexplicably, he threw 93 pitches in only 4 innings. He still had he still only allowed 2 earned runs, but he had a 5.3 strikeout walk ratio and 5 hits allowed, which wasn't very good. But on the season, his strikeout rate is obscene with 146 strikeouts and only 23 walks and 105 and a third innings pitched and only 79 hits allowed. So he's striking out a ton of batters, not allowing a lot of hits at all. His walk rate is actually really low as well. Great numbers from Garrett Crochet. And Pittsburgh basically has never seen him before. Only Michael Taylor's ever faced him before, and even though he's 1-for-1 off him with a single, I don't think there's really much you can take away from that at all. It's effectively that Garrett Crochet has never been seen before by Pittsburgh, but we don't know who Pittsburgh's starter is yet. But for all those reasons, I like the White Sox quite a bit, and I may wind up on the White Sox. The White Sox might be a stronger play than the Kansas City Royals, but you're having to lay the price for the White Sox there. Then we'll move on to what I think is a pretty big pitching mismatch, and this is a spot that I like as well. I'm going to be laying the big price with the St. Louis Cardinals, even though I think they are public against a struggling Cubs team. Cardinals, I think, do have a bit of the better record here in this divisional matchup, but I still like it. St. Louis is up from -180 to -186, so they are a big favorite, but I think it's justified, and I'm going to say in this one, just lay the 1.5 run line on St. Louis. You can get it at like +110. Just don't even mess around with it, really. Like, you're getting close to like a spread type of pricing on St. Louis -1.5. That's what I would do here. I think this is a big mismatch. St. Louis had yesterday off, so that's one thing they have going for them. The more rested team, and they're coming off getting swept by their interleague rival, the Kansas City Royals. So they're coming off a couple of ugly games in a row, and some of it can be explained because St. Louis had to return home in one of those games. There was a postponement, but still, maybe they were distracted in that first game against the Royals, and then it just kind of carried over. So I don't think we can take much away from them losing to the Royals twice. It wound up being a doubleheader, I think, too. But the Cardinals didn't play yesterday while the Cubs did. So not only is St. Louis coming off an embarrassing sweep at the hands of the Royals, who haven't really been playing well recently, Chicago, the Cubs are coming off a big series sweep of the Orioles where they outscored them 21-2 in the series and had 2 straight shutouts to finish the series against one of the best teams in baseball, the Orioles. I expect Chicago to take a step back after that, man. And the Cubs did play yesterday to finish that series. They had a good start out of Justin Steele. They did use 2 relievers, Smiley and Lopez, but still, the Cardinals are going to have their bullpen a little bit more intact because they just didn't play yesterday. So I think we got a situation where the Cubs are in a letdown spot off of that huge series sweep that I don't think anybody expected. Now having to go into St. Louis, it is a divisional matchup, like I said, and the Cubs are behind St. Louis in the division, but I still think St. Louis, coming off those ugly games against the Royals, I still think they're going to be focused here. Even though the last time out, they did actually sweep the Cubs in a 2-game series because the last game got rained out. So is that going to motivate the Cubs? I don't know. St. Louis is actually 4-1 against the Cubs so far this season, I believe. Or actually, that was the first time they faced the Cubs. It was a 2-game series. Then the last time they faced them was a 3-game series, and they took 2 out of 3 in Chicago. But even so, I still think it's a much better spot for St. Louis. And then looking at the starting pitching matchup, I think this is a giant mismatch here. Kyle Hendricks is pitching for the Cubs, and he just has not been doing it, man. He's getting older now. I think in his last start, which was still like 6 days ago, I think he got pulled from the start due to an injury, but he wasn't doing well against a not good Anaheim offense. He'd gone 2 innings and thrown 43 pitches, not efficient at all. 2 walks, 4 hits in 2 innings, and 2 runs allowed, and only 1 strikeout. Start before that, he was awful too, giving up 7 runs against the Braves. I had a couple decent starts before that, but he had a stretch where he just wasn't going deep into games at all. A lot of the time this season, he hasn't gone deep into games, man. He's only gone at least 5 or more innings in, I think, 4 of his starts on the entire season. So Hendricks hasn't been going deep into games. He hasn't really been getting it done. And he's got a 7.53 ERA and 1.58 whip this year. And it's like, I think the wheels are just kind of coming off him, man. I mean, he's been pretty bad for a few seasons now. He's had his entire career with the Cubs. He's just not totally cutting it anymore. He's not what he was several years ago, where he was actually a decent pitcher in the Cubs rotation. He's kind of looking at sort of the end of his career at this point. He just has not been good at all. He's got only 47 strikeouts and 20 walks and 63 and a third innings pitched this year, and he's allowed 80 hits and 13 home runs. So everything about his stats, just too many walks, not a lot of strikeouts, way too many hits allowed, way too many home runs allowed. He's just been taking it in every which way. That doesn't sound quite right. He's getting gang banged by the other teams in Major League Baseball. Kyle Hendricks, I mean, he can't continue pitching this badly. I mean, but still, like, he's not good anymore. And it's just not a good situation. And against St. Louis, his numbers aren't really that good in his career. Well, actually, his numbers aren't that bad. Actually, yeah, I should take that back. His numbers are decent against St. Louis in his career, but St. Louis has a lot of familiarity with him. They are 51 for 222 off him lifetime with 13 doubles, 6 home runs, 15 RBIs, a 39 to 14 strikeout walk ratio. So that's a lot of walks. Only a 230 batting average and 645 OPS. So Hendricks has actually done well against them, but like I said, this season, it just hasn't been good. He hasn't faced the Cubs yet this year, St. Louis. He's facing St. Louis. He has faced St. Louis this year once, and he didn't give up any runs, but he only lasted 4 1/3 in that one, and they pulled him after 58 pitches. He only had 1 strikeout. I didn't walk anybody and had 2 hits allowed. So, I mean, it was a performance that kept them in the game at least, but he's just not a very good pitcher anymore, man. And he's up against Sonny Gray, that's the other side of this. Even though Hendricks does have decent career numbers against these St. Louis hitters, Sonny Gray has been really, really good. Even though he's about the same age as Kyle Hendricks, Sonny Gray has been very, very good this season with just crazy numbers. A 3.3 ERA, 1.04 whip, all that's got 115 strikeouts and 24 walks and only 72 hits allowed and only 8 home runs allowed in 92 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's been the much better of the 2 pitchers this year, quite obviously. I think he's the better pitcher like throughout his career as well. And Sonny Gray's coming off a rare kind of bad start for him where he gave up 5 runs in 5 innings against the Washington Nationals. Gave up 8 hits, only walked 1, had a 6-1 strikeout walk ratio, though. So his strikeout walk numbers were still pretty good. Struggled in a couple games in a row, actually. Didn't do that well against the Reds either, where some errors kind of hurt him in that game too, but he gave up 3 earned runs and 4 1/3, and that one 7 hits, 1 walk, still 6-1 strikeout walk ratio. His strikeout walk numbers have still been pretty good, man, overall throughout the course of this season. And prior to that start, he went at least 7 innings in 3 straight starts, so he hasn't been bad. He's faced the Cubs once this season and had a shutout against them for 5 innings, a 1-hit shutout with an 8-2 strikeout walk ratio. He did get pulled after 74 pitches in that one, so kind of rare. I don't know if that was a shortened game or what, because he typically goes like 80, 90 pitches in most of these games. So they still let him go pretty deep into these games. He's the guy that's probably going to get you deeper into these games than Hendricks. I said Hendricks has only gone at least 5 innings 4 times this season, where Sonny Gray has only gone less than 5 innings or fewer than 5 innings twice this season, I believe. So Gray, he's just been the much better overall pitcher. And then versus the Chicago Cubs, his numbers are a little bit better, I would say, than Hendricks' are, especially the strikeout walk numbers. Hendricks has been seen a lot more by St. Louis, too, even though both sample sizes are pretty big, but Gray's been a little bit better against the Cubs. 14 for 60 lifetime, 4 doubles, a triple, a home run, 9 RBIs, 23-6 strikeout walk ratio, 233 batting average, 686 OPS. So those are low numbers, too. So I'm going to stick with the side with Sonny Gray, even though the public is coming in on the St. Louis side. Probably not to a huge extent, though, because they probably won't want to be laying a huge price with St. Louis like this, but I think it is justified for all the reasons I just said. I do think it's a starting pitching mismatch as well. I'm going to do it. I'm going to come in and lay the number. Like I said, I'm going to split it. Or no, I'm not going to split this one. I'm just going to go -1.5 run line plus 110. That's going to be that one. And then to finish this off, I'm actually going to play on the Toronto Blue Jays, even though both of these teams did play yesterday. This is at Arizona. Arizona looks like they're up from -120 to -132. So some movement on Arizona, it looks like. But Arizona's public because they have the better, well, I don't know. I think they might have the slightly better record because Toronto's been pretty bad this season. But I'm not convinced that Arizona's the better team. And with this pitching matchup, I really don't think they are. They got 62% of the tickets, but it looks like 57% of the cash coming in on the other side on Toronto. So it looks like the money is actually coming in on the Toronto side at this point now based on the percentages, even though the public coming in on Arizona, the team that won the NL last year. Both of these teams have not very good records, but Arizona's actually pulled up to a 500 record now, and Toronto's below 500. So the public isn't going to want anything to do with Toronto here. Both teams played yesterday, but Arizona, man, they're coming off back-to-back wins to split the series with the Braves. That's a big series with the Braves coming to town, and Arizona won 1-0 yesterday, so they could be in a letdown spot here. Fott gave them a much better start than I kind of expected. Both starters did a lot better than I expected, and then the Diamondbacks had to use 3 of their better relievers. They've used their closers, Sewell, multiple times in each of the last 2 games they've used him. So I think there's no way he's available in this game. So Arizona's bullpen is not really in the best shape here. Toronto with a win over San Francisco yesterday and coming into Arizona from San Francisco, they only used 2 of their relief pitchers. And Toronto's bullpen not really that great. So even though Toronto's bullpen isn't that great, I don't think Arizona's is either. And Toronto's bullpen is a little bit less used than Arizona's is. And Arizona's in the letdown spot, like I said, whereas Toronto, beating San Francisco, I don't think it's that huge a deal, really. And maybe they'll carry some momentum winning 2 games against the San Francisco team that hasn't really been that good and winning, 2 straight series and winning 4 of their last 6. Maybe Toronto's on to something. But I also like the starting pitching matchup better for Toronto here with Yariel Rodriguez pitching, even though his whip is indicative that there's something wrong. He's a rookie. Well, yeah, I think he's a major league rookie, even though he's 27. He was pitching in Cuba, as I've mentioned before on the show, before he came over this year. He's got a 3.68 ERA. That's pretty good, but a 1.33 whip. Definitely a bit high. 29 to 15 strikeout walk ratio is concerning. The 15 walks is really what's concerning. 29 strikeouts and only 24 hits allowed in 29 and a third innings is good. So really the only number to be concerned about here is the walks. But over his last 2 starts, he's had a 12 to 4 strikeout walk ratio. So that's this month, in the month of June. So not bad. And he's got at least 6 innings of both of them, only allowing 3 hits in 12 2/3 innings and 1 run over that span against a Houston offense that's pretty good, even though Toronto couldn't hit and they lost that game. And then winning at Seattle. Seattle's a good pitcher's park, though, but still a 6-inning, 1-hit performance in Major League Baseball. I mean, there's nothing to really scoff at there. So after Rodriguez kind of had a shaky start to his career and not going more than 4 innings in any of his first 5 starts, he's gotten at least 6 in each of the last 2. So he's trending in the right direction, and they've let him pitch more, throwing 82 and 83 pitches in each of those. So he's been better in those. So even though the walk number is concerning, the rest of his numbers look fairly good to me. And of course, against the Diamondbacks, we have no history. The Diamondbacks have never seen him before. And like I said, when you have this young pitcher who is a decent prospect and has some decent stuff, he's starting to pitch pretty well at the major league level, at least if the last couple starts are any indicator. He's on the right track here. And Arizona's got these hitters who have never seen him before. That tends to be an advantage to the pitcher early on, like I said, where the hitters have to adjust. They don't exactly know what to expect out of him the first time through or first couple times through. So I think that's an added edge for Rodriguez a little bit. And then what can we say, man? On the other side, Ryan Nelson is pitching, even though I lost going against him his last time out. He's actually had 2 okay starts in a row where he's only given up 1 earned run, got at least 5 innings in each of them against a Dodgers team and then San Diego. So tough divisional matchups. But this might be the spot where he kind of returns back to earth, man, because even though he only allowed 2 earned runs there, 1 earned run in each of those starts and an 8-2 strikeout walk ratio, I still don't trust Ryan Nelson at all, really. And those are 2 big divisional road matchups. Now he's returning back home, and I think we could see some regression out of him, like I said, even though he has put up some decent starts at home this season, too. He's also had some real clunkers at home as well. I mean, he's been kind of all over the place, but overall, his numbers are just bad. 5.08 ERA, 1.48 whip, even including those last two good starts. He just hasn't been good. His career numbers just aren't that good, even though he's a young guy at 26. It's like, well, will he turn it around? I don't really know. I just don't think he's really that good. He's got a 54 to 20 strikeout walk ratio this year, 98 hits allowed and 79 2/3 innings. None of that is impressive. Way too many hits allowed. 10 home runs allowed isn't that great either, although he pitches in Arizona where a lot of home runs happen. But very low strikeout rate, pretty high walk rate. There's nothing to really like about these stats, man. His stats are just bad overall, and maybe he's in line for a letdown, like I said, after two pretty good starts against two divisional rivals in the Dodgers and the Padres. And this might be where he falls back to earth in an interleague game against a not very good Toronto team. Toronto has seen him before, not much. We have a 16 at-bat sample to look at here. They're 4 for 16 off him with a home run, 2 RBIs, 3-0 strikeout walk ratio, 250 batting average, 688 OPS. So really it's just kind of mediocre stats in a small sample size, but it's a situation where I think Nelson is the significantly worse pitcher in this matchup. I just don't think he's very good. And I think the fact that there is some familiarity here with Toronto's hitters, whereas there's none on the other side for Yariel Rodriguez. I see some market indicators here on the Toronto side. So you can take Toronto at plus 110 money line, just fire on it and hope they win the game outright. Hopefully it happens. So those two official plays here, as I've been just doing awful, man. We have to turn this around and get back to where we were. This has just been horrible recently. I don't know what's going on. Major League Baseball typically is very good for me. St. Louis Cardinals minus 1.5 on the run line, plus 110. Toronto Blue Jays plus 110 on the money line. And then, like I said, I'm looking to potentially play Kansas City in the range of just a small favorite, maybe against the Red Sox. And I think even stronger actually would be a play on the Chicago White Sox. I actually like quite a bit. So I don't know if I'm going to come in on one or either of those. It depends on what the starting pitching matchups are actually going to be. So I don't know if you're really going to get value right now, not knowing who the starting pitcher is on either side. I think it makes sense to wait and get that additional information, I guess, at least. The Chicago White Sox, you're going to have to lay that heaviest favorite price that you'll probably see all season on the White Sox. And I think maybe it's actually justified with Garrett Crochet pitching, and Cole Reagans is pitching for Kansas City. So I do like those as well. And the White Sox is probably going to be in the range of like a minus 150 favorite where you're going to split the run line and money line, like I said. Let's do it, man. Let's start having a good weekend. Finally start turning this around. End the slump. Come on. Peace.